One of the biggest, most common questions I get is really pretty simple and mundane. It is, what kind of mat should I buy? And that may seem like a simple question with a simple answer, but a quick search of Amazon will tell you that there are more mats at different price points than you can possibly imagine. So what is a yogi to do? Which one is right for you? And which one is worth the money? That Cadillac price tag, do you get something pretty awesome for that price, or is it sort of a waste of money? So in this video, we're going to talk about yoga mats, which one you should look for, and which one is the best value for the money. Before I dive into that, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share so that other people can find this video and we can spread the word about yoga. Okay, so before we dive into mats, the different kinds of mats at each price point, I want to point out a few basic things. The first is most mats are standard size. But if you are a really tall person, you may want to look for mats that are a bit longer. So when you go on Amazon or to some yoga studios, you will find mats that are extra long. And that is probably a worthwhile investment because otherwise with those long legs, you're going to step off the mat and start slipping and sliding. So for most people, average height or below, most mats are fine, but they do make longer ones if you have longer legs or you're taller. Now, there are three basic kinds of mats. There are many, many brands, but there are three basic kinds of mats or materials that yoga mats are made out of. The first kind is PVC or plastic. And these are the cheapo ones. You can get them at Walmart or on Amazon for $10, $15. And it seems like a pretty good deal, $10 or $15 for your yoga mat. Kind of hard to say no to that. But it comes with some big downsides. The first is that because they're made of plastic, the environment takes a real hit. Those puppies are going to be around in a landfill somewhere, maybe breaking down, but still not fully biodegrading for thousands of years. So if you are concerned about the environmental impact of your practice, avoiding the PVC mats is a really good idea. The second reason is more close to home, and that is that they have an oily film on them. It's a product of the petroleum, and when you start to sweat on them, they get insanely slippery. So rather than being a sticky mat, it becomes a slippery mat, and you start to slip and slide. And in poses like triangle, downward dog, and warrior one, you find your feet and hands moving further and further apart, making you practice for your life rather than for the joy of practicing. So all in all, not the best choice. If you must choose this because it's the only thing your budget will allow, lightly washing your mat with a little bit of, just a tiny bit of Dawn dish soap and some water. That Dawn dish soap has an ingredient in it that breaks down the oil pretty well, and it will make them a little less slippery. Okay, on to the second kind of mat. These are made out of rubber. And rubber mats are fantastic to practice on. They are environmentally friendly. Rubber breaks down relatively quickly over time, which has the downside of not lasting as long, right? A PVC mat might last you 2 years, whereas a rubber mat you'll probably need to replace probably once a year or maybe more frequently if you practice on it a lot. The good news though is that they grip, they hold your feet and hands snugly in place so that when you're doing warrior one or two or triangle or downward dog, those poses we tend to slip in, you really feel like you've got a grip, like you're sort of stuck to the floor. Now, one of the downsides of rubber compared to PVC is the weight. Rubber is very heavy. So even a thin mat, and I'll talk about the thickness of the mats in a moment, even the thin mats tend to be heavier than their PVC counterparts. So the rubber mats usually come in three thicknesses. One is more a home mat. It's really, really thick, and they're just delightful to practice on, but brutal if you have to schlep it around. Then they have medium thickness, which is more for schlepping around when you don't have to go very far, or maybe if it lives in the trunk of your car. And then they have super thin ones, which are really great if you're traveling, like backpacking across Europe or going to India, something like that, where you don't want a lot of extra weight. The thin ones aren't going to give you as much cushion, but they are all very effective at preventing you from skidding all over the place. Now, a third option is what is called a cork mat. And usually these are hybrid. Usually they combine rubber with cork, and some are just cork. Cork is the most environmentally friendly. They tend to be the most expensive of all the yoga mats. They're really wonderful to practice on. And the nicest thing about cork is they tend to be antibacterial. So while your other yoga mats can get pretty stinky over time and need to be cleaned, the cork mats tend to be repellent for bacteria, which means they don't smell as bad, which means you can practice on them longer. Cork is also really durable, so they tend to last a little bit longer than the rubber ones, but they don't have quite the sticking power as the rubber mats. They're close, but not quite. Now, one other thing about the cork mats is they are pretty heavy and they don't roll up as tight as the rubber and PVC mats. So they're just a teeny bit harder to schlep around. They do roll up, but it's just a little more effort. They're a little stiffer. So those are your three options. PVC is easily the most affordable, least effective in terms of an effective yoga mat and in terms of hurting the environment. A cork is sort of at the top of the line with rubber somewhere in the middle. Now, in the show notes, I will list some links to Amazon, some affiliate links on Amazon with some of my favorite mats in those top two categories. I don't really recommend PVC mats. You can find them on your own. I don't want to encourage people to purchase something that's going to be so lethal to the environment, though. So go ahead and check those out. Look at the reviews. If you're at a yoga studio, you might want to feel them in your hand to see which one feels best, and then make your purchase. I will leave you with this one final thought. If you were going to take up running, you would go buy a pair of running shoes. And a good pair of Nikes is going to cost you $100 or more, right? So if you're going to take up tennis, you're going to go buy a tennis racket. Whatever you're going to take up, you're probably going to invest some money in some gear, some outfits, some shoes, something, so that you can be more effective at that. So as you're considering what you're going to spend on your yoga mat, put it in the category of a good pair of running shoes. Because just as you can get more from your running and injure yourself less with a good pair of running shoes, a good solid yoga mat that doesn't have you slipping and sliding everywhere is going to make your practice more satisfying and a heck of a lot safer. I hope you found that helpful. Feel free to drop a comment below if there's other topics you'd like me to cover, even if they're mundane stuff like which yoga mat should I buy, and I would be happy to address them in a future video. You can contact me also at my website, which is darrenmain.com, and I have some free video courses there that you can check out while you're on the website. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.